You're listening to the Absolutely Cosmic podcast, self-improvement from the nerdy perspective, powered by Cosmic Absolute, gymwear for the gym nerd.
I'm just getting back into the podcast. I was doing one a week for a while, then traveling kind of hit. But yeah, I designed a trading card game, 101 different trading cards. And the whole core premise of it is that it's the first trading card game that incorporates fitness into it. So it's kind of super nerdy, but that's what our whole brand is about, is gymwear for the gym nerd. So we got the apparel, got the trading card game. The next step is probably, maybe within the next year or two, like a graphic novel. And then my goal is to throw some free workout plans and nutrition plans like halfway through or at the end. So I've never seen it done before, so we'll see if it kicks off. The trading card game has done pretty decently for what I was expecting. I expected but people are kind of interested in it for like not doing too much, being a very small brand. It's doing pretty decently.
Dude,
hell yeah.
The brand only expands more, and you're hitting a really targeted niche that is definitely needs to get to the gym.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Like, I consider myself a massive nerd. Growing up, I had the Game Boy, I had the SP, I had the DS, I had the PSP, I had the Xbox One, the Xbox 360. I've played all the consoles, I played all the games. Yeah. And then more recently, I went PC gaming, right? In the past couple of years. But then obviously this past year, I stopped completely, after I started my business. So the thing is, I think video games are still great. It's just I had a very big problem with being hyper addicted, and I could not say, okay, I'm going to get on for an hour. And then, 4 hours later, I'm still on. So that was my biggest issue of just not being able to instill that balance. And I knew that it was so ingrained in me that for what I'm trying to do right now, I just need to put it aside. And I think later on in line, I will definitely come back to it. But bro, I love that, dude, because fitness is so important. And people, right, the nerds out there, hello, you too. We got to get in there, right? Like gaming, great. But again, a nerd could be like, honestly, I'd love to know what your definition of a nerd is actually before we even dive into that.
Yep. So I think anybody who really, I don't even know, anybody who's just super passionate about any subject. Cause there's people who like rocks and you could be like, oh, you're a nerd. But I really think pop culture, comic books, video games, movies, that kind of geeky, nerdy, type world where there's a lot of fiction, a lot of science fiction, a lot of, fantasy, board games, anything like that. I think that's kind of the nerd spectrum that I'm on, and I think that definitely kind of defines it for the most part.
I love that. So what are your favorite movies, nerd movies? For me, I'd say Lord of the Rings, but you go for it.
I'm a big OG Star Wars, none of the Disney stuff.
All right. None of the Disney stuff. Nice. I love them.
I'm a big Terminator fan. So Terminator 2 Judgment Day, all-time favorite movie. I could watch that. Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, same thing. I could watch those over and over again, back to back. So that's probably my biggest.
Yeah. That's so funny, man.
Hell yeah.
People talk about Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and people say the newer Spider-Man's so good. I'm like, bro, no, they're not. Tobey is the guy.
Exactly.
He started it.
He's the GOAT.
Dude, Spider-Man 2 also I thought was really, really good. Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, all three of those movies, they were uniquely good in their own way.
Yes.
Obviously Spider-Man 1, classic, but Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, they all, I think, did a great job of keeping pretty consistent with stuff. But yeah, dude, I love it.
Hell yeah, man. So about you started Inner Quest, right?
Yep.
You have DZ Fit and Performance, which I'm assuming that's your personal training side specifically, and you're kind of branching between the two a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll kind of give you a little bit of a backstory as to kind of how this all started and, what that entailed. So backtrack all the way to college, right? Mm-hmm. We're graduating college. It's 2019. I studied communications. I studied leadership as a minor. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to college because my parents were like, you know what, you're going to go to college, you got to get a degree, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm like, okay, great. I'll just do it. Who cares, right? But then once I got out of college, I'm like, well, I don't know anything other than my old past, which was I played sports all the time. So it only makes sense that I'm going to go do the fitness stuff and do the fitness route. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to actually go the fitness route, and I'm actually going to end up, just working for a gym and try to work my way up. So I started at the Edge Fitness Clubs in Fairfield.
Okay.
And I was a front desk consultant, right? I was just greeting members as they came in. I was kind of top the ropes of making people shakes, right? The smile on my face. Dude, I had a lot of fun at that job.
Yeah.
And the people I worked with, it was a really special time. The biggest thing for me that always drove me insane as I was there over the past, over months and months would go by, I'd get to know new members, right? And I'd even sign them up. Be like, oh, awesome, you're starting your fitness journey. I'm so excited for you. Let's go. And then for whatever reason, they would just quit and they disappear. Not even quit, they just disappear. I'm like, where are these people? But once again, I wasn't always calling the current members. It was like, no, call the new leads, call the leads that we need to sign up, whatever. So I'm like, but what about the old members? Where did they go?
Yeah.
And so I got to the point, and this is 2 years after I started now, right? So let's fast forward another 2 years. And I'm the fitness supervisor, and I'm like, dude, I'm so sick and tired of doing the same thing every day. And I feel like I'm not impacting these members. I'm not getting them to stick. And that bothered me. So I decided to become a personal trainer. I'm like, I'm going to get my CPT. I'm going to figure out how to coach people. And lo and behold, without me even trying to find it, a good friend of mine from high school was like, hey man, he heard what I said. I was like, yeah, I want to be a trainer. He's like, oh dude, my friend, this guy, Derek, who I train with over in Milford at Upward Human Performance, he's looking for a trainer. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let me try it out. Let me see what that's about. I'll meet with him. We got on a Zoom call, hit it off immediately. Dude was super locked in, super motivated. And I honestly did not really meet somebody as locked in as Derek Ward. I never met anyone in my life that was okay, let's put the pedal to the metal, let's grind. He had that coach mentality. And I was like, dude, I love this guy. Let me see what this is about. So what I ended up doing, I shadowed him for a month, right? I did a 90-day shadow period. So for about 3 months I shadowed, it was a 30-day shadow period. Then I started to get a couple of classes to teach myself. I had a couple of one-on-one clients. And then all of a sudden he's like, you know what, man? We're gonna try to build an adult program, and I actually want you to be the client success manager. So I want you to, or assistant. So I want you to help with people's, consistency and showing up and things like that. I'm like, oh, that's great. I love that. Yeah. That's what I'm all about. Yeah. So I started doing that with the kids. I started teaching them about goal sheets, goal setting, all that. And then we were able to build a company, right? This gym, which was once again a small box gym. It was making about 10K to 15K per month, maybe.
Wow.
With all the athletes coming in for classes and whatever. Dude, we made it go from 15K to almost 100K per month gym in 1 year because we locked in the systems. We locked in all the lead generation, everything. And he streamlined it, but he gave me the opportunity. And the team that we had was so locked in and focused on the vision. Everyone was dedicated. It was just the perfect combo of us 4 guys that just went after it. So the gym had to move. We had to move to a different location while still coaching people. So it was oh, hey guys, by the way, we're going to be moving the gym in the next month. And we just found this out. So don't be surprised if some of the equipment kind of slowly starts moving over there while we're here and whatever. And dude, it was a process. Yeah. At the new place, we put in the turf. We put in the rubber. Wow. We got all the equipment in there. We even had to get some equipment from somewhere else and then drop it off at this guy's house and bring it into his house. This guy who I guess lent Derek the stuff. It was a wild process. We didn't get paid for it. It was hey, we'll get pizza after, this is done after a couple of days, whatever. Yeah. We just did not care. We were just we want this gym to succeed. Yeah. So working for Derek taught me this is how you become successful. You build the vision, you build the dream, you build the plan, and you dedicate it, you stick with it, and you stay focused.
Yes.
You stay focused. And at that time, dude, I was waking up early. He was giving us books to read. So I was reading every day. This was just after I finished the 75 hard challenge as well. Yeah. So I was just hey man, let's go. I'm on that grind. Let's get it. So it just went in perfectly with everything that I was doing. Yeah. And that's what ultimately led me to being like, you know what? I want to do something on my own. Because what happened with Derek was he kind of started to check out. We were doing really well. So he just kind of checked out after a bit. And he's like, yeah, you got it, whatever. And I'm like, dude, it's like my first time running a gym. Like, okay, I'll try. And like, we'll meet every once in a while to go over stuff. But anyway, he comes back and he's like, oh, guys, wait, I made a mistake. I was actually paying you all too much money to do what you're doing. So what we actually have to do is we have to change the model. And so now, since Denzel, you're the sales manager, but you're also personal training, you're also a trainer, we're going to have to make your sales position commissions only. Meanwhile, it took like, obviously, like, you know, setting appointments and doing that. It's like, it's so much time.
Yeah.
And so I'm just logically breaking down the numbers in my head of how it's going to work. And I'm like, it's just not going to work. There's no way.
Yeah.
And I love this guy. I love this gym. I love these kids. I love these adults. I've built a relationship. And I'm like, holy crap, I got to leave. So this was a moment for me where I was like, you know what? I need to go find something that's consistent, that's like safe, so to speak, for now.
Yeah.
But I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
So I started working at Orange Theory, right? And from Orange Theory, right, I basically was like, okay, I got that managerial skills. I still was managing Orange Theory in Norwalk. And I started my business. And the way I started it, my main man, Chris Warrens, which you probably know.
Hell yeah.
He's like, Denzel, I'm having a mastermind January 2nd or January 4th. You should come. And I'm like, Chris, how much is it? He's like, oh yeah, it's $4,400. Meanwhile, I look at my bank account. I'm already $4,000 in debt. I have maybe a couple $100 to my name. I have a savings account that I can't really touch right now. That's like there's really like, that's all I have is what's in there.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, this makes no logical sense. Like, why would I do this?
Yeah.
And all Chris says in his Chris fashion is, Denzel, this $4,000 could turn into $44,000, $444,000, $4 million. The potential's there, but you just have to make a decision. So what's it going to be? Right? Like, he just always like, so what are you going to do about it? I'm just like, and it's all I'm like, okay. Like, and I kind of wait like a day and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. And he's like, okay, great. So I go, and like a couple other people in the mastermind were there. It was awesome. And dude, I literally went in there not having a business or a plan. And I walked out of there with an LLC created and a business plan. And I have never, and that forever will be in my mind to show me that if you are willing to pay for the value and dedicate yourself to it, you will get the results. So a lot of people get scared. We can talk about this. I'd love to hear your point of view, but a lot of people get scared when they see that, like, oh, there's this mentor, this person or that person, and it costs like thousands of dollars to work with them, or a couple $100 a month to work with them, whatever it is. And they're like, well, no, like I'm just not willing to. Well, do you want to stay where you are?
Yeah.
Because that's what I had to decide. I was like, do I want to stay where I am, barely making any money, living at my parents' house, being a slave to everybody else around me, not feeling like I can be my own person, not having any confidence? Or do I want to actually take that leap and that jump, build that confidence, build that self-esteem, build the motivation, the value in myself, and actually start to learn who I am as a person and what I want to do? So I took that road, man. I started January 2nd of this year. January 4th, I made that decision to start locking in my habits and getting things on track. And now fast forward, it's December 1st. I have some clients and dude, it's really great. So I'm really excited. A lot of things are happening.
That's excellent. That's, here's, most people, and I like where you said about like, we fear so much. We live in this like scarcity mindset almost where it's like, oh, but if I'd rather put my money to a college, right? Not that college is bad. I'm not saying that. If you know what you're going for, but I'd rather, spend it away on getting beers every weekend with the boys or a dinner or this or that than investing in yourself, much like Alex Hormozi talks about all the time. S&Me 500, invest in yourself. And when you find like Chris Warrens, he's like a phenomenal example of entrepreneurship, and he has a very interesting way of teaching. So when you find a mentor like that, who's like, hey, listen, I'm offering this program, and he's the real deal, or they're the real deal. What would you rather do? Would you rather, like you said, stay where you're at? keep dreaming about what you could do. Keep it in your head, or just take action. It might suck. You might have to eat ramen for a few weeks or whatever it may be, but eventually it pays off. I believe in like the law of attraction, right? What you put out will come back. So if I put out, 100 hours of work, that $100 of, results will come back in some form or another, and I think oftentimes we forget to just be a little bit bold like that. We're only on here for like 70 years if we're lucky, on the spinning rock. So
seriously, man. And I love what you said about that. It really just does come down to just having the faith and putting in the work, right? Trusting that process, the work, the hours, it will pay off. A lot of people nowadays are so used to just getting things right away. Yes. Super fast. Even us as entrepreneurs, it's like, okay, what's the fast? I need to save my time. What's the fastest way? Yeah. And it's like, sometimes the answer is no, dude. Yeah. There isn't a fast way. You just have to get the reps in. Yeah. And 100%. That's like, and like, it's a kind of a tough realization, but like, that's the fact. The matter of fact is, it's like some stuff we can streamline it. We have AI now. Super awesome. I just did a podcast today actually about AI on my podcast. And so, hell yeah, dude, it's crazy. And I want to talk to you about this really quick. We are moving so fast as a society. Yeah. In terms of all the different eras and different generations we've lived in, right? Or we've had in the past. So the agricultural age. Yes. Right. That was thousands of years. It took them thousands of years to then get to the industrial age. Then after that, a couple hundred years later, now we're looking at the next age, and we have the information age. Well, that was the distribution age after the other age. But the whole point is we get to this age, and the ages are getting closer and closer together because we're just growing so much faster. Yeah. And now we're in the age of the intelligence age where we literally have like anyone who's born who has a phone can literally run the world. Like they have the power to do it. So there's, you know what I mean? We have all the things at our disposal now. Yeah. That's like you said, there's literally no excuses. Like you could literally do all of, like you said, all your work from a phone, all your work from a laptop. Like I like to think oftentimes, like my great grandfather was around during the Spanish-American War. Wow. The technology and advancements, what we're able to do, everything that we know and live, our lifestyle would be fantasy compared to that. Like, and I don't know, it's kind of just this, when you realize from a broader look, right, that when we're only here for a period of time and you have so many resources available to you, it's kind of like, well, there's no real excuses. There's no tangible excuses. Like you can't say like, oh, well, I don't have any money. Okay, well, like I run a t-shirt apparel shop, right? And I've told my friends who've been like, oh, that's so cool, with the merch and stuff. I'd love to do that. I said, well, Etsy's free. I said, print on demand's free, right? AI, you could use that. There's free like graphic design type stuff. There's a way to start. That's how I started this whole thing. So, and I believe if you start, right, it should be messy. That's how it is. You start messy, you start terrible, and you slowly refine, you slowly put in little systems as you go and evolve, much like a Pokemon or something, Yeah. 100%. I agree. That's such a good point with just evolving. I mean, it's all over the place. Like you said, it's all over the place. Yeah. And the reason why we have our mentors is to help so that it can go a little bit straighter. Right? Yeah. Like, okay, you're about to make this mistake that I made and it cost me 1.5 years of my business. Yeah. Now you're not going to make that mistake. And now you're going to be saved a year off of your whole experience. So yeah, man, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit more about how you, and I know your audience obviously knows this, but I'd love to just personally hear a little bit more about how you got started with your business and kind of what motivated you initially. Yeah.
So when I was 16, I've always wanted to have a t-shirt like shop. That was when e-commerce was popping off. I didn't start. I had a lot of limiting beliefs. Like my family and stuff, they believed that you needed money to get, there was always an excuse why you couldn't do something. And they kind of rolled that into our life. So that always I carried that for a while. And then I got back from my first deployment to the Horn of Africa. And I get back and I couldn't find a job. I remember like a week before I came back, actually 2 weeks before I came back, I stayed up for the time difference. I like applied to all these places, called them. Like by the time I got back, like 20 different job applications were all denied, and they were all like entry level. It wasn't like college degree or anything.
Yeah.
And I remember I was so frustrated. I applied for a target security position. It was a part-time position. And I was like, well, you know, I mean, I'm working on an airplane in the middle of Somalia, loading it up, being aware, making sure nothing, you know, pops off. They give me a gun and a $37 million airplane to, you know, take care of. I'm pretty sure I could do some loss prevention work, right? And I got denied from that. And I was like, what the hell?
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
They rejected it. So I didn't even get an interview. And I called them and they were like, yeah, we went with somebody more qualified. So I had a lot
more qualified than that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So I had a lot of
crazy.
personal stuff going on. I was struggling to find like work. As a guardsman, you're part-time when you're not on orders. So I was part-time. I was traveling all the time. Kind of sucks because when I would travel, I'd lean into, you know, the military kind of has, it's not alcoholism, but it kind of is alcoholism. It's, you know, it's part of the culture. So I'd kind of lean into that and I got super depressed. And I hit rock bottom. I was going to do a temporary or a permanent, you know, solution to a temporary situation. I was going to, you know, I was very suicidal at that point. So, you know, as I got help, as I kind of rebuilt myself, I realized that I should just say, fuck it, because the traditional route isn't working. It's not for me. So why don't I just go be an entrepreneur and start the t-shirt shop? And when I tell you, like, my first Shopify store was terrible. My first designs, rough. And I've been, you know, when AI kind of came out, I'm super into AI. That's kind of part of the creative process for making some of the merch and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I remember like just how much, like I didn't know how to use Photoshop at all. And then I taught myself Photoshop. I taught myself every single little aspect that, you know, evolved. And I mean, there's an infinite amount of future. Like where I'm at right now is only where I'm at right now. And I've just been slowly growing and keep grinding, you know, after work, after, you know, TDY, I've gotten to, you know, you get to your hotel sometimes late and everybody's like, let's go out. And there's been days where I'm like, I'm going to grab dinner, head back to the hotel, and I'd like crush out some designs or like schedule some podcasts or like edit some podcasts. And that's kind of where I'm at, you know, really trying to deliver that self-improvement fitness that you can be a nerd and be a, you know, a gym bro and be fit.
That's awesome, man.
Hell yeah.
An inspiration, and keep doing
Thank
it,
you.
right? It's like we don't
Thank
stop.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is understanding too, like you're saying, just don't quit.
Yeah.
Like you and me both are in a very specific part of our business, and it's like, just don't stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, just keep showing up. Like, okay, you mess this up or you forget this or whatever. It's like, no, like just keep going.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like within the first, I don't know what the statistic is, but like most people in the first year of a business, they're just like, okay, like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, I give up. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think we really do have a lot to go there. And also thank you for sharing about, you know, the dark time you had in the military and bringing that to light, because also I think people, especially that are listening to this, really understanding, hey, when things get difficult, when things get tough, when you're down and you feel like you don't have anybody to speak to, you do have somebody to speak to.
Yeah.
Right. You
100%.
always have one person to speak to. If you don't have anybody around you, you have God. You can always pray.
Yes.
Practice gratitude.
Yeah.
And there's practices.
Yes.
And even if you don't believe in God, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's practices. And what I have done this past year is I have figured out for me personally what practices work very, very, very well when it comes to mental performance, physical health, and just spiritual connectedness.
Yes.
And those 4 habits are reading, exercise, meditation, and journaling. Those 4 things done every single day to some extent, if you do it every day, like you will get better. In most areas of life, you will get better. The meditation, your awareness is going to increase. You're just going to have better self-awareness and be able to sense what certain emotions are coming up and not just immediately attach yourself to them as if, okay, I am this emotion. It's like, no. This emotion is happening. And like, you can have an emotion to try to process it, sure. But like, you are not that emotion.
Yeah.
And then with the physical fitness, I was lucky there because that's been my whole entire childhood. Like that was me. I could not stop moving. That's who I was. For someone who it's not, it's all right. Go for a walk. for 20 minutes, 15 minutes. Just like stretch a little bit. Like start easy, slowly build it up over time. And then you will be shocked at how much progress you make. People overestimate what they can do in a month, but drastically underestimate what they can do in a year, right? You've probably heard that. And understanding, imagine you walk every day for a year, like every single day for 20 to 30 minutes for a year. And then over time, you turn that into like a run or like a run and a stop, a run and a stop. Like you're just over time, you're improving your capability. And then in a year, it's like you've lost this much weight, you've done this. And then because you're doing that, it's just this momentum effect of leading to the next positive thing, the next positive thing, and the next positive thing. So not only did my habits help me just get better, they also started and branched out and created other habits and attracted the right people to me, right? The right relationships, the right opportunities. Like I became aware of it. So dude, I'm so happy you said that because I think everyone can benefit from utilizing those in their own way. Yeah. There's no specific way to do it. That's the best part. It's like, hey man, or hey boy or girl, like whatever works for you, like meditation, that could be going for a walk. That could be sitting in silence. It could be breath work. Like it doesn't matter, but just you're doing it every day.
100%. And I kind of want to, I guess, piggyback what off you said with, you know, starting off small and slowly building up, just add a little bit, you know, the nectar of like maple syrup, let's say maple syrup, right? It's not going to taste as good when the tree's only 1 year old, right? It's going to taste good when the tree's like fully grown, fully developed. That process of, if you had it instantly, like if I wanted to go run an ultra marathon and I was David Goggins and I did it right now today, like fully conditioned without ever having to train for it, I will never understand how important and how valuable and how those lessons, the morality and that lessons that you get towards your consciousness and just who you are as a person behind the actual action. And then even furthermore with what you said about you're not your feelings. I think that's the whole principle behind like Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism. You know, being able to stay in a neutral position, you can feel your emotion, but it's not going to influence how you act. Because if I feel depressed right now, my day still goes on. If I feel happy, my day still goes on. And I take those actions accordingly to my plan that I've put in place, not necessarily, oh, I feel motivated, let me go on a run. No, let's go on a run because we need to lose weight or we need to get better at running, you know? And I think, you know, I read your submission when I sent you the little survey and you mentioned like having people to be able to stick with a plan. I think sticking with a plan in that sense is much easier because it's easy to win when you're winning. It's easy to keep the momentum going. But when you get fucked up and you get you break your leg and you're out for a year or whatever it is, what then? You know, if you don't build that mental infrastructure like you mentioned, you're not going to be able to keep chugging along. You're just going to be like, I'm winning now. I'm going to keep winning. I'm a baller. But as soon as you know, drop off the cliff, there's nothing left. There's no gas in the tank, you know?
Yeah, I love that. That's so great. When it comes to I think a really big issue that I had, and yeah, I think I really agree with what you're saying. When it comes to just accepting failure, as entrepreneurs, I feel like we really do not like failure. Like we don't like it. And honestly, I want to reframe it from failure to just falling. Like, or you made a mistake. Right. You're not there yet. You didn't fail. Like, because failure, like the sound of failure means like, I'm done. It's over. Like there's no coming back. You give up. Right. But I just fell for a minute. Like I fell down or whatever the terminology you want to use besides failure. Like it's just the word. And I think the words we use, they also have a lot of power with how we operate every day. So getting into like the negative self-talk, the positive self-talk, like what are the little things that you're saying where you're putting yourself down every day? It could be so minor and you don't pay attention to it. But once you start paying attention to the things you're saying, the things you're doing every day, and you're really living in the moment, which like meditation, all this stuff, the mindfulness, journaling, it all helps. We can start to get over that. We can start to take the steps over that. So yeah, what are, and Josh, I'm super curious too, like what are some, for you, your entrepreneurial journey, like what have been some habits that you have that have helped you get to where you are now and helped you get through some of the tough times?
I think systemization. I think that is the biggest thing because I'm like I get very passionate, and all my life I've always had little, like, I'll get into a hobby, get, kind of good at or obsessed with it, and then drop it for a little bit or slow down with it. So I think perseverance, staying disciplined on the path that you're trying to, pursue, but also systemization, make it easy for yourself. Like with this podcast, I recently, 2 weeks ago, on this tangent, because I realized, when I first started, it would be like a rat race. I'd be chasing my own tail every week. Come Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm working on editing, working on a thumbnail, working on the title, and then even trying to find guests during this time. And it was just like a melting brain moment. And then you'd have a technical difficulty, or your computer dies, and you don't have your charger for that day, whatever it is. And I realized, like, okay, I need to make it so that it's fail proof. Like, it's almost like I put it in, like, if you look at McDonald's, right? McDonald's, you go anywhere in the world. I was just in Germany in September. We got McDonald's there after a flight. And it's the same thing as here, stateside. Same exact thing. I mean, a little bit different, but the same. You get a burger, it's a cheeseburger. It's a McDonald's cheeseburger. And I realize it's the same thing with the business. Like, no matter who the guest is, right? I need to have a same format, right? I need to have a same process of editing. I need to have a same process of color grading, same thumbnail process. So that has been the biggest thing for me, at least. And I learned that through making the trading card game. Because when I set out to do that, I was like, 101 cards are supposed to be 160, and then I ended up cutting the fat of the ones that didn't really fit through as I was developing it. But I was like, that's I have no game development experience. This is just me trying to do something. And I gave myself a month and a half, 2 months, until I got back from Germany. And I realized what I did is I drafted up the mechanics, I organized it, came up with all the characters, their stats, what moves they had, awesome. And then I worked on the artwork, and then I put it all together in Photoshop with a template that I made. And then, so systemization has been the biggest thing, because I'm naturally unorganized. How about yourself?
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, it's the habits I said before that have really helped me, just the mindset, visualization, everything. And dude, that's insane. You made a game, bro. You made a literal game that people can play to help change it. Like, that's awesome. You, man. We need to gamify life more. I think that is something that is missing from this world of just, can we make it more fun? Like, why does everyone seem like they're just dying? Like they're just rotting a slow death. Like, let's actually have fun here. Like, while we're, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I think it's so important, dude. I'm so happy you're doing that. And can you just tell me a little bit more about kind of how the game works?
Yep. So it's kind of a mix between Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Cool. Turn-based, you have 5 different factions, 5 different rarities, and your core focus is to basically eliminate all the players' characters, and how you are able to draw these characters or settings cards that you have. So you have characters, settings, and challenge cards. Those challenge cards give you a bit of cosmic energy. So if it says do 25 burpees, you get 10 cosmic energy, which means you could put that towards your, balance to be able to draft a card in. And that's right now, I'm thinking about set 2, and I'm like, oh, I could, like when I was a kid and played Pokemon, I want to try to do like the evolution, some sort of evolution or, transformation mechanic or something. That's awesome. So it's going to be a constant evolving thing, but it's a very turn-based kind of battling type card game.
I love that, dude. Yeah, I used to collect Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I used to collect Pokemon cards. I played a little bit. Like, I had the the Yu-Gi-Oh, like the arm. I forgot what it's called. Dude, I had that. It's like, and then, dude, that was great. And they're timeless. Yeah, dude, cards are timeless. Like, people, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, I think it was COVID right before. Yeah. Where cards, like trading cards, got super popular. Like, all of a sudden they just like, oh my gosh, you have this Pokemon card? I'll give you $20,000. Like, what? Yeah.
For a cardboard? Yeah.
No, literally. So that's insane. And that's timeless. And just like saving those two. Like, for me, this is kind of a little different, but the comic books. When I was a kid, I'd go to the comic book store and I'd get like 4 or 5 $1 comics. And just like stockpile them at home. And like a couple of years ago, I was looking at it because I stopped. That was like a year-long period I did that. And I look back and I'm like, wait a minute. Dude, these comic books are from like 1969 to like 2000.
Yeah.
Like just a wide variety of years, like this year. And like you open it and like the paper is like, you could tell it's like older. Some of it's like kind of yellowed out, but like I have the covers and everything for them. And I have a special, dude, it's great. So I'm just looking at them like, okay, I could save those for my kids. I could sell them in like 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But either way, I'm going to hold them for now. And I think that those will be great for kids one day to read and just look at. But I love that. And also, too, I think this would be funny to share. Dude, I played World of Warcraft growing up, like so much World of Warcraft, so much WoW. I played Skyrim endlessly. Like in high school, just so everybody knows, in high school, I'd go to my friend's house after school. And like, this is while I was playing like varsity sports, like JV, whatever, like as I was going through high school. I'd go to practice. After practice, I'd go walk over to my friend's house behind school. And then we just game for an hour or two. And then my mom would pick me up and we'd go up. Right. And like, that was literally my routine. Like his family didn't care. Like they're like, oh yeah, he can come over, like whatever. There was a time, and this would be on like breaks. Like I remember there was a winter break or something where I literally lived at this guy's house for almost a week and a half. We camped out in his basement. I had a TV. He had a TV. We just had a LAN party and just like crushed sodas, ate junk food for like literally a week and a half straight. We just lived down there in his parents' basement, like growing up. And like, you look back at those times and I would never trade that for the world. I mean, that was like, they were very special times. We bonded so well with doing that. But it's funny now because you look back and you're like, wow, man, that is wild. That is a wild concept. But
and that's also like, I notice a lot of, and maybe in a niche, like in gaming, gaming stores or hobby clubs, they might have that, but I feel like that's missing nowadays, like it's not the same, so that's kind of part of the mission, is to kind of just bring back some of those things that give that human interaction. And then I do have a question for you. So you mentioned a little bit about, self-talk, self-affirmations, negative self-talk. Are you familiar with Bob Proctor at all?
Bob Proctor. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So what are your opinions? What's your belief on like manifestation and like the conscious, subconscious model and things like that?
So there's a lot of things. I mean, have you heard of Joe Dispenza?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe, I mean, I love Joe. I think he's got a lot going, but he's been he's did this for like 30, 40 years now. And just when it comes to manifestation, right? You can say, I want this. I want this. I want this. You could say that literally all day, but until you actually believe and you have the belief that you are that person, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So the question is, well, Denzel, how would I ever be able to do that if I haven't had the experience yet? Well, that's the great part. What you're going to do is you're actually going to use what's called your imagination, which we've been taught not to use through going to school and the education system. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually start from square one like you're a toddler, which is okay because we all are trying to get better at this. And we're going to practice visualization on very simple terms, right? Just visualizing things that you've already experienced that make you feel really good, right? Maybe there was a time in your life where, maybe you're dating this girl, this guy, whatever, or you ate this really good meal and you just remember the smells of it, the texture, everything. And that's where you start. You start in places where you already know you're familiar and it makes you feel good, and at times where you did well. That teaches you the emotion.
Yeah.
Once you have that emotion, you know how to activate that emotion. Now we're going to start utilizing visualization for the future things that you want, so you can actually start to bring it closer to you. Because once you see it, you can't really unsee it.
Yeah.
Here's a good point. Here's a good example, right? You have the red car analogy. Yeah. So I'm going to go to work and I'm just going to drive straight to work. No one told me anything. Get to work. Somebody puts a gun to my head and says, tell me all the red cars that you saw. I would be dead. Because I was not paying attention. I have no idea. Now, if somebody tells me before I get in my car, hey, make sure you look at all the red cars that you see and make sure to tell me when you get in. Okay, cool. Now you're going to be driving. All of a sudden, out of the corner of your eye, red car, red car, red car, red car. Like you're just automatically wired to do it. So what we have to do is we have to pre-frame our mind to be able to see these opportunities.
Yeah.
So that's where, yes, affirmations come into play. You're telling yourself, you're picturing that reality. And then what's going to happen is now your mind is going to consciously make an effort to start finding those opportunities in the real world. So then you're going to start seeing ads for this, or you're going to start seeing this. And the funniest part, and this kind of just me being a joker, but like, obviously our phones listen to us. So like, oh, you start talking to your phone and saying this and that. Yeah. Oh, all of a sudden I'm on Instagram and I'm seeing this. Wow, that's so great. It works so fast. That's insane, right? No, it's just your phone's listening to you. But I'm like, but that's my point is like, you will have those opportunities come to you, but you have to understand what that feeling is like and because really what people want, they just want the emotion. Like you don't want all the money in the world. Like, yeah, money's great and you can do a bunch of fun stuff with it. You just want how the money's going to make you feel.
Yeah.
Right. If all of our needs were met emotionally, like we wouldn't really want anything. And I think and this is interesting. I want to get your input on this. So people are really lazy right now, right? They might have dreams of, oh, I want to do that. But just their world of physical comfort that we live in now, they're so comfortable already that they have no desire to go after that goal because they're comfortable, right? So that's why people don't change unless enough pain happens, unless your environment shifts. There's only 3 to 4 reasons why you're ever going to change your attitude on life. Yeah. Right. And it takes those specific things to happen in your life. So, to answer your question, you got to have the emotion first through familiar things you've done in the past that make you happy, that bring up that emotion you want. And then you have to strategically start to think about what you want, plan it out, write it down, and see it every single day. And a really good way to do this also for people that are just really, really struggling with visualization. They're like, I cannot I can't close my eyes, can't see anything. Yeah. You could tell me this, can't see anything. What I suggest you do is I suggest you go on YouTube, you find a video of what you want. And what really helped me, to be honest, was like, I have this whole big house that I want in the future, right? And there's this guy, I think his name's Yenis or something like that, but he's a real estate guy who does tours of multi-million-dollar houses and mansions. Okay. And so I would wake up in the morning and just like watch the same video over again. And then what I started doing was I started playing music that I like. So like I was listening to some like house, like, kind of vibing out. And like, he's just like touring the whole house. I'm like, okay, like, let's go. Like, I'm ready. So like every day I was doing that, dude. And I got amped up. I was like, I'm going to win today. Like, I'm going to do everything I have to do because I'm so excited. I like, feel so good. So use YouTube videos. Like we have so much visual stimulation now, music. And what Joe Dispenza actually talks about, and this was created by a different company. Yeah. It's called Mind Movies. So write that down, right? It's Mind Movies. And what a mind movie is, easiest way to do it is in Canva. You get a free trial for a Canva membership for a week and just make this and then you have it forever, right? And what you do is you literally take little clips, which Canva has. You can also download, obviously find ways to download parts of YouTube videos and clips, right? And you basically make a video, 5 to 10 minutes, just clipping each thing that you want. It's a video. It could be like this, that, whatever you want. And then what you do in each clip that you have, picture that you have, is you put an affirmation in there and you read it while you're watching the video. And there's purposefully what you're doing is you're setting music in the video that inspires you, that uplifts you, that helps to bring that energy up. Yeah. So now what you're doing is you're watching this video daily. And over time, now if you hear that song anywhere else, guess what you just did? You just connected your mind in a way where now you hear that song, you can see, hear, smell the whole entire picture of what you want in your life. Yeah. So that is a hack of how you're going to be able to actually get that. Yeah. And even with especially AI now, AI generated video, you can literally get exactly what you want, make that clip thing or make like a vision board. I guess work on it, doing my own vision board or at least redoing it a little bit. But you can, with AI now, you can literally, like if I said I want a house on the beach of, in Florida, Key West, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is that you want, whatever opportunity, life, whatever your representation is, maybe you want inner peace. I don't know. But you can literally create that vision, that movie, that mind movie, that vision board so easily now. Again, going back to it, so many resources now available. There's no excuse not to, be leveling up. Yeah, exactly. And the way I started before I knew about the mind movie stuff is I there's a book, it's Jack Canfield. I think it's something, I think it's literally called The Success Principles. It's like a Bible. It's pretty big, but it covers a lot of principles that are really important to just, have in life to be successful. And he talks about like the visualization part. And so he's like, vision board. What I did was I got a journal. I found pictures, like I printed out pictures online of things that I wanted. And then I wrote down the affirmations of what I wanted, as much detail as possible, of what the date of like when I'll have it by, all this. Now, here's the thing about the date. It's very helpful to have a date with these things, right? As you know. However, God and the universe works in a very, very mysterious way that you will never predict. So you could arguably be hindering yourself by setting a date rather than just being more focused on being in that residual energy field and then actually getting it to it faster. Like you literally don't know, like the universe would be like, okay, you want this, right? Well, who's to say that like the universe won't just like, a lottery ticket will fall. I'm just saying a lottery ticket will fall. Someone tells you to go to this event, enter this raffle, you win $200 million or like you
something
just don't
crazy.
know. Like the world it's limitless to like the ways you can be blessed in any given moment. So that's why I just tell people, it's like, have a date, have an end goal to stay focused and stay, on track. But you also don't know when you could be blessed with some amazing opportunities.
100%. And the reason why I asked you about like manifestation and this kind of law of attraction, ideology, is because I was reflecting in the past 5 years. I was born with bilateral club feet. When I was 16, I wanted to join the Marine Corps. 3 years, medical waivers, congressional inquiry, got denied from the Marine Corps. Like I was just denied. And I remember I would like go on these runs and I was super emotional, and it was in prayer. Like I'd kind of pray, thought process as I was running. I'm like, God, put me where you need me. I just want to serve my country. Now, I'm going to preface this. When the few weeks leading up to me deciding to join the military, I actually wanted to be a flyer, an aviator. I wanted to be a pilot, right? And I was like dead set. Like I've always had a very visual imagination. So I'd imagine what it would be like to fly, or at least what I could conceive it was. And kind of got shot down. So I went to the Marine Corps recruiter, and he's like, well, you need to have a degree to fly. He's like, enlist. And, I was gung ho. I'm like, I'm going to be a Marine. So I decided to try to go down that path, got denied. And as through that process, I kept, God, put me where you need me. God, put me where you need me. Like, I just need that purpose. And I didn't realize what I was doing then, that I was doing those affirmations, doing that. And I eventually got to the point where I was able to get back in. The same doctor that denied me, he cleared me. He's like, oh, we could put you to the Marine Corps today. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm staying with the Guard. Ended up getting my flight physical, ended up, having this career now, deployment, everything. And I was looking back and I'm like, wait, that 16-year-old self that wanted to be an aviator, that wanted to be a flyer, I'm not a pilot, maybe one day, but that like, I literally, I guess, manifested that, if you will. And during that time I was running a lot, and, I was like, I want to run a marathon. And I heard about the Marine Corps marathon, because again, I was so like gung ho about the Marine Corps. Last year I ran the Marine Corps marathon, didn't even think of it. It just came, like everyone in our unit did it. And I was like, and then I was like, what the hell? Like how? I was like, how is this possible? And so I was like, I'm going to give this a shot, and I realized even recently I've had some personal stuff go on. And I realized that even my like subconscious anxieties kind of led into certain things that have happened that aren't so great in my life, right, as of right now. So now I'm on this rabbit hole of trying to understand and like develop that. And you kind of mentioned a few things, so I just figured I'd get your, idea on it.
Definitely. And you said something really important, I think, a minute ago about your 16-year-old self.
Yeah.
Your child self that wanted that.
Yeah.
We all have an inner child within ourselves that most people and everybody, a lot of people just don't have a connection with anymore.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to share this is because we all have been raised in different familial settings, just growing up. And to your point, even earlier about, your parents saying this or that, or the educational system we were kind of talking about, I was also kind of talking about this too, about you're going to college, like you're just going to do it, right? You're doing this, you're doing this. Don't say yes, don't say this. our parents love us, right?
Yep.
Parents, people, like, they love us. They want the best for us. But all they knew was that if we go to school, we'll have a better chance at life. So they're going to put us in school. However, we outgrew that model of education very, very long time ago, right? Like, end of Industrial Revolution, like, we didn't really need that anymore. Like, you could become, your own boss, so to speak. And so this is really where they got, just with all the publicity and this and that, and just the normal, like, the group think mentality, go to high school, like, they didn't know any better. So like, now I'm in the position I'm in, I'm learning all this stuff. I'm like, wow, the world is really, really not what I thought it was leaving college. And I'm just scared for, like, a lot of kids that are coming out of college that realize that, like, wait, the world's not like they're teaching it us to be. Like, it does not work the same way at all. Like, there's really no rules in the real world in terms of, like, you could be more resourceful, but maybe you're only going to stick to this way of growth because that's what you learned in school. Whereas if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, like, you need to incorporate multiple facets of growth and learning and all that type of stuff.
Yep. And like at the beginning of the podcast, failure is the best teacher because it identifies your flaws. There was this story about, I forget, I think it might have been the B-17s in World War II. But they, so they would send them out on missions, like, 20 would go out, only 5 would return, and they'd all come with bullet holes. And one of the generals was like, hey, we need to armor up where they have the bullet holes. And one of the crew chiefs was like, no. He's like, let's armor up where it's not getting shot, because that's the fatal spot. And when you realize through failure, because again, the traditional mindset where your family, college, the formal life, right? They teach you that failure is terrible. You are not supposed to fail. You're never supposed to fuck up. Yeah, you can't do that. That's terrible. You're a loser. But the reality is that if you mess up enough and you learn from it, you're not insane, right? You're not repeating the same thing over and over, and you slowly fix yourself. You slowly evolve. Eventually, you're going to get to where you want to be. And I think from my personal experience, it's a lot faster that way. It hurts a little bit. It sucks. Yeah. But the growth is, like, much more measurable than if I'm like, oh, that $4,000, I don't know, like, there's this really cool mentor called Chris Warrens. He's a really good instructor. He's a really good entrepreneur. He's, or it may not even be that, but that's this course or this opportunity to go to a seminar for public speaking or something. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I want to spend that $4,000. Well, fuck it. If that's not going to be the only $4,000, that's not going to be the only money you'll ever have in your bank account, and you're going to come out better, right? Because if you put in as much as you try to get out of it, right? I don't know, I'm going on a tangent, but
no, I love that. No, seriously, that's what it is. And to go off your point before about us being constantly said, like, don't do this, don't do that. Yeah, we all have a lot of things that we have to work on unlearning. Like, because we've learned stuff growing up that is just blatantly not the way. Like, a lot of our negative mindset that most people have, it was taught to us. Yeah. Like, unknowingly. Like, we didn't want the negative mindset. It's just, it was taught to us by the people around us and by this. And so to create a space where you actually can grow your mindset and grow your ability to do the things you want in life and not be scared and not be in doubt all the time and denial, that's a really beautiful thing. But we all really have to take the time to work with ourselves and, like, forgive ourselves for making those mistakes. I think we get really hard on ourselves for the mistakes we make. It's like, well, I made this mistake and that's all I can think about for the next 12 days now because, like, it caused all this pain and whatever. It's like, no, like, you made a mistake. It's okay. Forgive yourself. You tried your best in that moment. Now, how can we learn from that mistake? How can we be better? How can we evolve from this? Yeah. And I think everybody needs a way to implement that.
Yeah, 100%. Failure breeds humility. Humility breeds excellence. And within that humility, if you can learn to forgive yourself, if you can learn to just accept it and take the lessons with the humility and with that failure, like you said, it's going to go a lot more long way, and you're not going to be, depressed or miserable or salty, as they say,
Yeah. Do you feel like what was because this is just something interesting that I was thinking about. So my friend I was telling you about that I lived at his house, right, for a little while. Like, we were just playing games. She was in my life from sophomore year of high school to this year. And, like, he's still in my life.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, we haven't really been talking as much.
Yeah.
Which I'm noticing is actually, it is allowing me to move in other areas, right?
Yeah.
And so my question to you is, how has your group of people changed in your life since like before you started the business, and how does it compare to now? So like, I guess a time where you were just like, you didn't have your business, you were this, you were struggling, right? Those people, what were their traits? What were they like? And then now where you are, like, who are some of the people you surround yourself with?
I think the biggest thing with like the people now that I surround myself with, they all have this what if mindset, like why not me mindset, and this grind mindset, let's figure it out mindset. To me, I think when you surround yourself with other people like that, it again breeds that thought process. Because when you're like, right, we talked about self-affirmation, right? You tell yourself, well, if you're talking with your buddy, like, let's say I go out and grab lunch with one of my buddies, and he may not have a business, but he might be, hitting the gym for the first time, or he may have a business, and you're just talking like, yeah, like, this is great. This is what I'm like. Success breeds success. Iron sharpens iron. And I think, like, looking back to, especially right before the military, I would even say, like the people that I hung out with, they weren't bad people. And I hope they're doing great to the ones that I've lost contact with fully. And the ones that I do have contact with, I distance myself because I know that I'm on this path of what I need to do. But the mindset was like, we're always going to be in this like struggle, this crappy. So let's just be idiots. Let's just let's waste all our money. Let's not try to improve. Let's not try to grow. And I've even like some of my friends who, if I'm like, hey, this is what's working for me, and they have a negative mindset, like, I don't need to improve anything. Not that I try to purposely distance, but you have to be careful, because it's like a rotten apple next to a good apple will rot that apple. I butchered that saying, but it's true. It's infectious. It's infectious, and I'd rather have positive infectiousness than, turning into a zombie.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's a weird moment, because you're so used to having certain people in your life, and then you're like, well, wait, I can't leave them. Like, the biggest thing for me with a lot of my closest friends growing up is like, I grew up with these kids. I've known them for so long. So like getting that through your mind of, it doesn't matter that you grew up with them. Like, you're changing. They're changing. They're doing their best. Some of them are getting married. Some of them are moving here. Some of them like, everyone's doing their own thing, and like, you're going to do your own thing too. So understanding, hey, it's okay if you separate a bit, and if you're not talking as much, and if the other person has a problem, which has happened at times where they're like, wait, like, dude, like, I don't hear from you. Like, do you even care? Like, your friends are like, what's wrong with you? It's like, no, like, I care about you. I love you. I wish you the absolute best. However, I am just very, very busy with what I'm doing here. And this is where I'm going to add something in that is important. If there are people that you truly care about, that you still want in your life, even if it is at a distance, you still have to make an effort and plan the time to reach out to them and keep that relationship alive. So that is where I also looked back and said, okay, pointing the finger back at me, am I putting in the effort to keep this relationship alive? And the answer was no. Like, I just fully was like, no, like, he just reaches out to me. Cool. He just reaches out to me. No. Relationships are a two-way street.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really big lesson that I learned a little while back, because, dude, like, if you want to do anything in life, if you're just going to expect everything to just be, hey, here you go. Like, you're not going to get far, right? We're in being an entrepreneur, being in business, we are here to serve. We are here to serve and provide value to other people, to help them grow, to help 100%. Them succeed, to help them feel comfortable, to solve an issue. And as long as we're doing that, yes, things will continue to come to us. But that is the essence of entrepreneurship. If you can become selfless in the way of you wanting to help people, people know that and they feel that, you are going to be the most successful person ever. And someone who I just want to plug really quick, Myron Golden, if you haven't heard of him already, he is a phenomenal entrepreneur that actually teaches business through the biblical perspective entirely. Okay. And he hits hard. Really? Like, he's a great speaker, great coach, great guy. And he's on YouTube, and he just talks about how started YouTube 14 years ago, no idea what he was doing, and just like slowly kept posting like a week at a time, week at a time. And he explained that like within a 2-year period, he literally grew his following 10, 20, 30x compared to all those years before.
Yeah.
Like it happened at once. So it's like this momentum of, and I actually talk about this, but there's this law. When you are going to grow through something, right? There's what everybody expects, and then there's actually what's happening, right? So for example, you're here and this is the line of growth that everybody thinks. When you start, it goes like this. You're going. You can't see anything. You can't see any improvement. You're like, what am I doing? Nothing's going right. Nothing's going right. Nothing's going right. Boom. And then all of a sudden you just reach this insane momentum and you just freaking blow up. And so that's kind of the approach of like, hey, you might be doing stuff good or bad and you're learning it from your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're patient enough to wait for that moment where you get your breakthrough, it's gonna come.
Yeah.
Some people it happens in a year. Some people it takes 5 years. Some people it takes 10 years. I think it's Chris, tell me if I'm wrong. It's Chris Willinix, I think, or something. He has a podcast, like a stoicism kind of podcast where he interviews people. Dope dude. He just posted the other day. So grateful to be here, to have over 1 million followers, like 1 million subscribers. Like it's so great, blah, blah, blah. Like this is my story. Dude, he was literally sitting at a round table with his buddies like 10 years ago, just explaining like, I put in all this work, this, that, and like it finally paid off. And then in this last year, from this year to this year, I made 500,000. And then just from last year, I made another 500,000. And like I got, so dude, like everyone has that similar trend and story. We just have to be able to understand that, yes, we're in that process. However, we might be still in an invisible area where we just haven't seen that happen yet, but it's okay because it will happen. Just do not quit.
100%. And it goes, I don't know. I think too, when you measure like what you said about entrepreneurship first. Yeah. When you realize that it's a mission to help others, to give to others, to provide for others, to create for whatever you're doing, it's for others. It's to leave it behind. Like when you're done on this planet, it's to leave it behind to somebody else, you know, to give to others around you. So when you measure it that way, that one new follower or that one person or the person who, like in my instance, maybe gets a t-shirt and, you know, maybe reaches on the Instagram and DMs me like, hey, man, like I had a kid from, I think, Wisconsin. He's looking to be a load master. He's like, I just found your page randomly. He's like, I saw that you're in that same thing. He's like, you have any advice for me? And like, that meant the world to me. And I'm like, awesome. So when you measure it in that invisible, in that grinding era as the small successes, as how you can help people, I think it frames how you go about doing things, because then it gives you a purpose. It gives you like, well, I got to improve so that more people can enjoy it. You know, I got to get better at this or keep going, just keep going so that I can provide for other people and give what I have to offer to them.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing once you get to that point. And every day we're just trying to get a little bit better than we were yesterday, right? Like 1% better, just keep improving. Yeah. And like you said, if that's got to be the best thing, dude. I love that when people are like, hey, because really what it is, like people are watching, man. Yeah. People are always watching and they're going to be silent for a long time, potentially, right? Like they're not going to say anything. They'd be like, nah, he's not going to be here next year. Nah, he's not going to be here in a month. He's whatever. Oh man. Like, if they only knew the plan, right? And they only knew this, like, and it's funny because, dude, every time, and this is what I truly try to think about when I'm doing stuff. Every day on my story, I post my routine. I post what I do every single day since the beginning of this year. And the reason is that I do that is because I want to show people. I don't do it just to like be like, oh, look what I did. No. I do it as a check-in for me to hold myself accountable. And then I do it for the person who's wanting to do it and is seeing me do it and is like, oh, okay, he did it again. So I guess that makes it like I could probably do it. Yeah. And like, I love doing that. Somebody also said something really insane, because I've always been like, if I'm in the gym, like I feel very uncomfortable taking my phone out in front of people. Like it's just do not do that. You're a piece of crap. Like, why would you do that? Like, you're so full of yourself, whatever. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm never going to do this, like ever. This is terrifying. So I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about bodybuilders, and they said, like, why are you being so, like, why are you not posting? It's like, well, because I don't want to look like this or that or whatever. And he's like, dude, what happens if Arnold Schwarzenegger ever posted a picture of himself? What if this bodybuilder never you never know that body was even possible to obtain. So the whole point is, like, you are inspiring other people. And if you aren't showing people your progress and your growth, you're doing them and the world a disservice.
100%. 100%. Because you don't know, and I like to think of it this way, you don't know if you're inspiring the next George Washington. You don't know if you're inspiring the next Elon Musk or the next Stan Lee from Marvel Studios or whoever it may be, the next president, the next, ultra marathon runner. You don't know who you're inspiring. And then it also comes into, like, being in the service. Like, I don't know if I'm inspiring the next person that when I'm old and crusty and about to retire, they're coming in. And especially in this digital age, like, yeah, you got to be careful, but at the same time, if you show, like the recruiting ads, right? You show what we do, right? If you show what you're doing and the successes that you're having, even if they're small, even if it's a little bit vain or whatever it may be, right? If you can share that with somebody else and inspire somebody else, light a fire in their ass, and, like, you may never know it, but, like, I don't know, it's just a cool idea to think about. Like, someone might be grinding hella hard right now because they saw this post from, a random person on especially right now on Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And now they're changing their life, and you may never know.
So awesome.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Hell yeah.
That's good stuff.
Hell yeah. To close it out, I have like two more questions for you. So, I know you mentioned that you recently did your first, like, public speaking, personal development event. How was that? And how, like, that's an achievement in itself. That's badass as hell. That's like Tony Robinson type shit.
I love it, man. Yeah. So no, it's a crazy story. So at this, not the beginning of this year, but a friend of mine around April of this year reached out and said, hey, there's this cool networking event. It's like a personal development seminar. You should go to it. I was like, oh, cool. Talked to my manager, was like, hey, can I get this time off? Because there's this. Like, yeah, cool. You're good. I'm like, sweet. Awesome. So I go to the event. It's the accountability community event led by this guy, so funny, right? We got Chris Warrens. Christopher Worth is his name, right? Slight difference. And he's hosting this event, right? And his whole brand is No Quit Living, does mental performance coaching, dope dude. And so he's hosting this event. I go to it and I'm like, wow, like, this is all awesome stuff. I get there. There's an accountability journal that they give to me, right? Wow. I actually have it right here. And it's funny, I've been utilizing this all year. Like, I have plenty of journals I've used in the past already, but after the event in April, I've just been using this journal, right? And so every day I'm writing in here. And I go to the event, I'm taking notes, and I'm like, this is a great event. Like, I wish they did more stuff like this, because this is the stuff that, I see online, YouTube videos, but, like, that never happens right near me. Yeah. Like, whoa, great, perfect. So I go, mental performance coaches. And meanwhile, I'm still at the very beginning. I just made my business, right? We're in April. And I actually still have a personal training aspect of my business. Where I'm, like, training clients and the mental right. And so I'm telling them, like, this is my idea. This is that. They're like, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, it's so awesome. I love this stuff. Like, and so I just got on their radar, right? I kind of got to know them a little bit and connected at the event. It was awesome. Fast forward to, let's say August of this year. Chris reaches out to me on Instagram, because at this point he follows me now. Like, he follows me. The other Christian Palmer, the fitness trainer, he follows me. Like, we follow each other. And I think Chris is just seeing me do all the stuff I'm doing every day and posting. And so he reaches out and he's like, hey man, we're doing another event. I want you to be a speaker at this next event. I think it'd be really cool. And you can share your story. I'm like, dude, that sounds awesome. Like, I'd love to do it. And so we meet and we talk about, like, the plan, and he's bringing in Ramon Peralta, in charge of Peralta Design, another, like, marketing network company where he helps people build brands. Awesome dude. Ramon's a killer entrepreneur, super successful. Christian Palmer, awesome fitness coach, nutrition coach as well, specifically. And it's the four of us guys. And so He hits all of us up. Like, we're all talking. We get to meet. Ramon brings us to his headquarters place. We go on his Mission Control podcast, which was an awesome episode, right, of all of us talking. And thing after thing is happening. And I'm just like, okay, I got to plan for this. I got to make sure I'm ready. So for me, and this is crazy, I was so busy on trying to go to Orange Theory every day doing my job, going to like working with my clients that I have already in the business, obviously taking care of myself, doing my stuff, and then like going out and like driving to places, bringing flyers, meeting with them about like just logistics. How are we going to plan the event? What are we each responsible for? Like sponsor, like all the stuff. And I'm like, dude, like I got to start writing a speech. Like, what am I going to say? And he's like, yeah, like we're going to talk each for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, that sounds like kind of a long time, but okay. Like that's what it is. I'm not saying anything. Like, we're going to do this. So, and then we talk again. It's like, oh, we're actually going to talk for like 15 minutes or so, like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's probably a little easier. And so, dude, I met with Chris, actually, Warren, CW. I met with him before the event, and he told me some stuff like that I kind of already knew, but like he did drive a point home of like, you need to make sure like your opener is like, it hits, right? And I was like, okay, like, got you. Like, I love Chris because he's just like, he just says it like this, like the bland, like no added. And it's just so intense. Like, let's go.
Like, all right.
And so, dude, I was like, okay, I got to write it this week. I'm going to write it this week. Next week passes. Write it this week. Next week passes. Bro, we are about 2 weeks out from the event and I still don't have a speech written. And I'm like panicking. I'm like, what am I going to write? There's going to be like 60 people there, like 60, 70 people there that are all like need to get their stuff together. And like they're entrepreneurs, anybody like successful, like not started, whatever. And I'm like, what am I going to write? And so I started thinking about just some of the things that like, obviously I've done. And I'm like, well, no, like my story, like I'm going to tell my story. And so I end up starting it off with, hey, so-and-so, do you mind standing up? Okay, everybody wave, say hi. All right, you can sit down. Now you're probably all wondering why I just had her stand up. Well, the reason is because 6 months ago, that's where I was sitting. And so that's how I opened up the thing. And then I just went into it, right? And so the whole point of that, and I think another reason why Worth wanted me to be there is because my story relates with what he did. And like, I decided after that previous event that I was going to take even more drastic action. Yeah. So beginning of the year from January to April, I had my own 120-day challenge that I committed myself to. I just made it because I did the 75 hard from Priscilla. I was like, that's great, but that's also like not sustainable at all long term. So I need to figure this out. So I was like, no, let me simplify it. Like read every day, work out every day, like not twice a day, but just every day, do some form of exercise, whatever, simplify it and let's stick to this. And so I did. And then, dude, this is where like the divine intervention comes in of like, you're staying aligned with your path. More things are going to just come to you. He gave me an app to use at this event, which then it's called Habit Share. I started tracking all my habits through there. So now it's like, I have another more legitimate way of tracking my stuff. And so it just kept me on the path. Yeah. So dude, it all fell together. Like it went really well. Made a lot of connections and, dude, it's just great. It's just great. I look back and I'm like, and dude, obviously like that last week before, like every day I would practice for a little bit. And if we're going to be honest, I probably practiced for maybe a total of, I want to say 8 hours about probably total for it, which I should have practiced way more. But dude, once I got up there, like I felt pretty good. It was beforehand. I was like, this will be interesting. I get up there. I'm like, okay, we're good, you know? But preparation is everything. The more you can prepare for anything like that, the more you get comfortable with just the space you're going to be in, like the clicker, whatever. Like once you get some practice in there, it's always great. But you got to think about some of these people that speak, they go into a place, never been in there, but they're so tuned into what they're going to do. Doesn't even matter. Like in front of 60,000 people. Oh, I don't care. I'm just giving you a message. And that's really what it's about. Like you're just giving them a message. You're sharing your story. So yeah, man, it was a special time. I'm super excited and I'm excited for the next event that I'll be speaking at.
Hell yeah. I like what you said, you said like the divine intervention, God or the universe, I believe God, but God will see that you're on that path of work, and he will reward you, and he will give you the little things, that little sign, like, okay, you're on the right path. Here's a little upgrade, or here's a little tip. Here's something to help you out, as you progress. And then, going back to it too, how, you don't know how many people you might have inspired that might change their entire life with that speech that you did.
There was
you'll never know. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a kid that came there and, guy, full grown man, like, sorry, kid is not the right term. But he literally came to the event because he followed me on Instagram. I had no idea who this guy was. Yeah. He just like followed me at some point earlier this year. He's like, dude, like, I love your content. I love the stuff you're doing. Like, and so I learned all about his story. And like, now he's in the challenge that we're doing, because we sent off a challenge at the end of the event that's going to be finishing the end of this year. And dude, like, it was just really cool, because it's like, whoa, like, this is the first time I've ever had, like, that was the first time I really ever had some random person, I have no idea who you are, come up to me at an event, like, get the VIP option, like, come see us after the show and like talk, and like, was just super cool. Like, just want, what I mean? He like was really looking for growth, was really looking for development. And I just love that, man. I just love that. 100%. Like you said before, it's just a great feeling when like, that you're speaking to a crowd that's paying attention.
Yeah. 100%. 100%, man. So I always ask every guest, the last question is, if you could say something to yourself or someone in your position when you started your journey, what would that be? What would be the most impactful thing you could say to somebody in that position?
Trust the process. Like, literally, it's trust the process. Yeah. Don't let the self-doubt, don't let the fear, don't let it, no, trust the process. I don't want to do this. It's scary. Trust the process. Yeah. Like, that's it. Yeah. That's all it is. It's everything's a process. You might not know what it is yet, but you still have to trust in the process that you don't know what it is, right? Like, you're going to find out. So yeah, man, trust in the process.
100%. Hell yeah. Well, thanks, Denzel, for coming on. If any of the audience of listening to this podcast want to find you and InnerQuest, or I'll link your Instagram as well. Is it innerquest.com?
Yeah, so innerquestlife.com is my website. Okay. As of right now, the best place for them to go is going to be to my Instagram. So that's DZFit_performance.
Awesome.
If you go to my bio in the Instagram, you can see all my other links, my YouTube, everything else on there.
Awesome. And be sure to follow his podcast. I've been listening to a lot of your clips, listening to parts of your podcast. You guys are wise as hell, and then just keeping that positivity at the back of your head, So thank you for coming on, Denzel.
Thank you, Josh. I really appreciate you, man, for having me, and I'm super excited for the next one.
Thank you for listening. Consider absolutely smashing the subscribe button for more content like this.